A lot of times the incident will dictate where you spot the porta tank, whether it be the driver's side, passenger side, or off the back. A lot of people prefer the driver's side because you can just look out your window and see that you're within 2 feet of the tank. A lot of people prefer off the back because the camera lines it up very nicely. The passenger side is least preferable to me because the exhaust is on that side, plus it's harder to be within 2 feet of the tank. Visibility is much lower.
Most of what's going to dictate your apparatus placement is going to have to do with the street that you're on and how trucks are going to come in and out for like a shuttle operation.
Yes.
Okay.
These gauges you use for pressure dumping and vacuuming. This is your gauge to see if you're getting a positive pressure in your tank for pressure dumping, or a negative vacuum in your tank for drafting, for vacuum filling. Your RPMs over here, text says you don't want your RPMs over 1500. So you can set your RPMs by using the cruise control or the gas pedal, and you can turn it off by either hitting off here or hitting the brake. The first thing we're going to do is transition from a gravity dump to a pressure dump into the tank. You want a gravity dump first to get some water in the tank so there's not so much force on the tank as with pressure dumping. To gravity dump, you want your main on, you want your vent open, and you want to open up the 6-inch. Right now water is flowing into the porta tank. In order to get a positive pressure, you're going to want to close the vent, put it in pressure mode, P push, which is up, and then you want to turn on your vacuum pump. Right now, this should be increasing in PSI, and it should be dumping the tank. To make it dump faster, you can press on and set. This will rev up your RPMs and water will come flowing out of the tank faster. You can hit Excel to further increase the RPMs and make it dump out even faster. To shut down the operation, you can hit the brake and that'll throttle down, and then you can turn off your vacuum pump, turn off the valve, and then you always want to vent to get it back to zero, whether you're pressure dumping or vacuum filling. Now we're going to gravity dump. To gravity dump, you need the main on, the vent has to be open. Pick which outlet. Our porta tank is on the rear outlet. You can see it in the camera here. Hold on, I gotta switch it.
You're done. Good.
Now we're going to transition to pressure dumping. You gotta close the vent, put it in pressure dump mode, turn the vacuum pump on. In order to make this increase faster, on set, I'd like it to push out even faster, so I'm going to hit Excel. As you can see, we're really pushing out some water. You see our water gauge is going down quickly. That's good. That means we're getting the water out fast.
Show how you would accelerate.
To accelerate, you can either hit Excel or you can hit the gas pedal. But the text says you don't want to be too much over 1500 RPMs. To shut this operation down, you need to idle. Tap the brake to idle. Turn off the vacuum pump. Close the outlet. I like to keep this in this position. Always vent your tank. You just gravity dumped and you transitioned into a pressure dump. The reason for gravity dumping first is to get some water into the tank so you're not too forceful on the tank. If you start off with pressure dumping, it's very forceful on the tank. With all pumping operations, you want to wear a helmet and gloves. The hard suction hose for drafting is on the driver's side. This side. Having it in the low point of the tank helps. For vacuum filling, also known as drafting, you need your vent closed. So you're gonna have your main on. You're gonna want to open up the orifice that you're using to get some water down in there. You can see bubbles coming out, so you know your hose is filling with water. This mode switch has to be down for vacuum, and you have to turn on your pump. Over here, you should be getting a negative pressure. To make that negative pressure come up faster, hit on, set. Hit Excel to make it come up quicker. You can see we're getting a negative pressure. Right now we're about -8 pressure. Watch the water gauge to make sure you're filling up. We just went from 1/4 tank to 1/2. If you have a full tank and you're checking off the tender and you're not getting a negative pressure, a lot of times you can't get a negative pressure if there's too much water in the tank. Sometimes the vacuum pump doesn't like to engage. If the vacuum pump isn't engaging, turn off the ignition and turn it back on. When drafting is complete, tap the brake to idle. You can turn off your pump, close the orifice, and to get it back down to 0, you're going to want to vent. You always vent after drafting and pressure dumping. Okay, what we're going to do now is demonstrate deploying a cross lay. We have a 150-foot pre-connect here, and we have a 200-foot pre-connect here. The nozzle on this one is 5150 fog, and we have a 15/16 smooth bore on the 200-foot. Both sides open, and they're pre-connected. This is the display. This is where you set your PSI. It has a pressure governor, so you don't have to set a relief valve.
Okay, you're gonna need to open that top gate too for this.
Also top plate up here.
Be careful when you're pulling it out if you're working up there, don't let it come down on
There's
you.
nothing holding it open.
All right, let's go ahead.
When starting up the tender, always remember to not totally turn on until that wait to start goes off. Alright. Main on. You want your vent open. Turn your fire pump on. You can hear your pump turning on. Tell your firefighter to hold line. Firefighters calling for water. The front cross lane. Sure he's getting his water. Water's going. Put it up to the desired pressure. shut down your pump. All right, now I'm going to demonstrate flowing water from the deck gun from inside the cab. You need your main on, you need your vent open, engage the fire pump, you can hear it turning on. You need to be in neutral, and you need the parking brake to be pulled for that pump to engage. It's in neutral, parking brake's pulled, I heard the pump turn on. Now you're going to want to check to see where your nozzle is pointing. My nozzle's pointing in a good location. Only open up the monitor from inside of the cab. You can adjust the nozzle from outside the cab, but you can only open it up from inside the cab. Now water should be flowing. To change your stream from inside the cab, you hit the gas pedal. Breaking it down, you want to go to idle, so you take your foot off the gas. Turn off your fire pump. Okay. To flow your deck gun from outside of the truck, you still have to be inside the truck to turn your main on, have your vent open, engage your fire pump. Remember, you're in neutral, and you have the parking brake pulled. You have to open up the deck gun from interior also. Out here, you can adjust. Cannot open or close the monitor from outside though. When shutting down, you're going to want to idle down. Close the monitor here. Turn off your fire pump. When using the trash pump, set up a few cones.
Talking about me?
Trash pump's located on the passenger side cabinet. Careful not to place the apparatus where the porta tank will be blocking it. Fill up the hard suction hose with some water. In order for this to operate, you start it up just like the TNT motor. You got a throttle, you got a choke, and you got fuel. Crank it up, turn off the choke. You're gonna have this cracked for it to pull a prime. Let it do its thing. Whenever you see it, it's pulled a prime. You can open it up all the way. Now the tender can go and get more water, dump in the tank, and the brush trucks can be filling up while the tender is gone. When shutting this down, you want to make sure you run all the fuel out of the lines by leaving it on and turning the fuel off. You can increase and decrease how much water is coming out of the pump by the throttle. It's much easier to position the apparatus off the back at a hydrant. The bends aren't as sharp, you have more room for error. Most hydrants have a blue marker on the road. If you put that blue marker about halfway down in your camera, it's a really good spot for your off the rear. But that also depends on how far off the road the hydrant is. When spotting the hydrant from the rear of the tender, pay attention to the hydrant marker on the road, the blue hydrant marker. You want that about midway on your camera. That's a good cheat to know you got a good spot. Interior, whenever you're filling up the tender from a hydrant, you have to have your main on and your vent open. If you don't have the vent open, it'll open up when pressure builds in the tank and it pops off almost like a champagne bottle. The main has to be open in order to open up the orifices from the exterior. This main has to be open. When getting out of the cab of the truck, make sure you grab your hydrant wrench. It's typically between the two hard suction hoses on the driver's side. Should be a pony section on the back. With a 6-inch Storks connection. You can tell it's 6-inch because it has 3 lugs instead of 2. Before opening up the hydrant, make sure you open up the orifice first, otherwise you're going to hear a loud banging noise. When filling, keep an eye on your water indicator valve. When it's green, stop backing the gap. Shut down the water source first. And close the orifice.